There were clearly 9 people when they landed on the island, yet somehow an extra person appeared in the team. Even more chilling, not a single member of the squad could recognize or even notice who that extra person was. The movie we're covering today is one of the most unsettling psychological masterpieces ever made. The story takes place during the Vietnam War in 1972. The South Korean military received a mysterious distress signal. The signal came from Romeo Point, and the sender was the Wild Donkey Squad, which had disappeared 6 months earlier. No matter how the soldiers questioned it, all they heard back were broken cries and moans. Then after a burst of gunfire, the signal suddenly cut off. To figure out what was really going on, military officials found the only survivor of the Wild Donkey Squad. They wanted to know if there were any other survivors left.
죽은 애들의 인식표를 내가 직접 가져왔어. 바로 이 두 손으로 말이야.
Although Mummy did not seem to be lying, a distress signal had still been received. According to military protocol, the matter had to be investigated. So the commander assigned a lieutenant named Choi Tae-woo. He was a highly decorated veteran who had survived a battle involving 200 soldiers, but he also suffered from post-traumatic stress and had become quiet and withdrawn. He was also blamed for failing to protect one of his men, but commander offered to clear his name if he led a team to Romeo Point and uncovered the truth. Choi Tae-woo wanted to bring his elite soldiers, but the commander rejected the request. In the end, Choi Tae-woo accepted the mission. The next day the unit gathered at the dock. For this operation the commander assigned 7 soldiers and a deputy leader to assist him. Strangely, among the 7 soldiers except for the youngest recruit, the others all had various health issues due to reckless lifestyles. To put it plainly, they were all overlooked expendable soldiers. Another odd thing was that none of them knew each other. After a brief introduction, the 9 men set off by boat. Soon they arrived at a jungle island. The moment they landed, one soldier suggested taking a group photo as a keepsake. Pay close attention here. There were 8 people in the frame, and with the photographer that made 9. After the first photo was taken, the photographer wanted to be in the next shot, so he asked another soldier to take the picture. And that was when something strange happened. There were still only 9 people visible in the frame, but including the person taking the photo there were 10 people. Clearly an extra person had appeared in the group, yet none of them noticed anything unusual. The squad then entered a bamboo forest, but before they got very far they came under attack. After locating the enemy position, Choi Tae-woo ordered his men to provide cover, while he carried a rocket launcher around the flank, and fired a rocket into the enemy camp. Afterward they moved in to investigate. They found a man and a woman, but the man looked as though he had been gone for a very long time, so the one who attacked them earlier was most likely the woman in front of them. They immediately searched her belongings, and found a string of bells. This would become an important clue later. After the search, the deputy commander ordered his men to finish her off, but everyone kept passing the responsibility around and no one dared to do it. In the end, Choi Tae-woo decided to spare her, not because he was soft-hearted, but because in conditions like these, someone with such severe injuries had almost no chance of surviving. Afterward, the squad passed through the bamboo forest and finally reached the entrance to Romeo Point. At that moment, the machine gunner noticed a stone monument covered with Chinese characters. Corporal O quickly came over after hearing about it. His family had worked in funeral and feng shui services for generations, and Chinese characters were commonly used in that trade, so he was able to read the inscription. The text at the bottom was covered by dirt and partly obscured, so he could not make out the remaining words. But after hearing Corporal O's translation, the others dismissed it as nonsense and paid no attention. As the squad left, the machine gunner relieved himself on the monument, which happened to wash away the dirt covering the lower section, revealing the characters that had been hidden before. Together they read, "Those with blood on their hands shall not return." The squad then continued forward until nightfall. They finally arrived at Romeo Point. The captain ordered everyone to set up camp, while he prepared to report their situation to headquarters, but there was no signal in this eerie place. Meanwhile, 3 other soldiers headed into a patch of tall grass to use the restroom. Before long, Corporal O, who knew a bit about feng shui, sensed something was wrong. He and the camp cook left first, and just as the camera guy was about to leave, a figure suddenly appeared behind him. It turned out to be the radio operator searching for a signal. The next morning arrived. The captain was awakened early by the radio operator, because he had finally made contact with headquarters. But just as the captain was about to give his report, something shocking caught his eye. There was a building standing not far away, yet the night before this area had been completely empty. Otherwise they would not have slept outside. To find out what was going on, everyone raised their weapons and cautiously approached the building. Notice that the squad still consisted of 10 people at this point. After entering the building, the traces inside suggested that another military unit had once been stationed there. After a thorough search, they found only a tape recorder. Once the captain confirmed there was no immediate danger, he gathered everyone for a meeting. Choi Tae-woo stated that their mission was to locate the members of the Wild Mule Squad within 7 days.
저 근데 실종된 애들이 어느 부대입니까?
그건 알아서 뭐하게 새끼야. 53대대.
53대대. 맞다. 니 그 부대 알았겠지? 그러면 실종된 아들 잘 알겠네.
No, how could I possibly know them? You can tell the camera guy is acting a little nervous here, combined with how frightened he looked last night. It is clear that he is hiding some kind of secret. Afterward, Choi Tae-woo divided everyone into two teams. One group followed the deputy commander, and the other followed him. The two teams split up since it would make the search more efficient. At first everything seemed normal, but not long after that Corporal Woo stopped because he urgently needed a bathroom break. Noticed that the deputy leader and his team were heading toward the right side of the grass. When Corporal Woo finished, he realized the others had completely disappeared. Faced with this situation in such an unfamiliar place, he was instantly overwhelmed with uneasiness and fear. Just as he was unsure what to do, a figure suddenly flashed through the grass in the distance. Thinking it was one of his teammates, Corporal Woo immediately followed, but he headed toward the left, which was the opposite direction from the deputy leader. Before he got very far, he tripped and fell. When he got back up, he was shocked to see his teammates standing right in front of him. But there was something strange. There were 6 people in front of him, even though the team only had 5, including Corporal Woo. Clearly something unusual was happening again, but Corporal Woo did not notice it at the time, so he quickly ran over to join them. Seeing that everyone stayed silent, he assumed there might be enemies nearby, so when the others slowly crouched down, he did the same. But moments later, the teammates vanished once again. At this point, Corporal Woo still had no idea he was experiencing something supernatural. He simply thought the others had left him behind again. Meanwhile, the real deputy leader and his team were searching everywhere for the missing Corporal Woo. They then reported the situation to Choi Tae-woo over the radio. After hearing the news, Choi Tae-woo decided to help with the search. Following the coordinates provided by the deputy leader, the two teams met up. There they discovered the ancient temple mentioned on the stone monument. However, after years of war and weathering, the place had long since fallen into ruins. But then they noticed several sticks of incense that were still burning, which meant there were other people on the island besides them. They eventually found Corporal Woo there as well. After returning, Corporal Woo told everyone about what had happened during the day, but no one believed his story. Just then the sound of a helicopter suddenly came from outside. Everyone quickly grabbed their gear and went out to investigate. To their surprise, a group of American soldiers approached them. Choi Tae-woo knew a little English, so he stepped forward and greeted them. After a brief conversation, they learned that the leader's name was Baker. They came to the island every 4 days to inspect the battery equipment on the second floor. Baker specifically warned Choi Tae-woo never to enter the battery storage room in front of them. Afterward, Choi Tae-woo went over to the radio operator. Since they constantly needed to report back to headquarters, the radio operator's job was to make sure communication signals were available. But at that moment, the signal only supported local communication. They still could not reach headquarters. While searching for a stronger signal, the radio operator unexpectedly picked up a transmission from a French soldier.
한번 놀러 오겠다고까지 했는걸요. 너 불어할 줄 알아?
After hearing what Choi Tae-woo said, the radio operator suddenly realized something. He did not even speak French, so how could he possibly understand what the other person was saying? There had to be some mistake. The radio operator then gathered with the others. He had repaired the recorder they found earlier in the room. Then he played the music stored inside, hoping to help everyone relax a little in this tense atmosphere. As the music started playing, everyone began to enjoy themselves. But just as they were singing and dancing, a dark blue perspective suddenly appeared. Then the music from the recorder abruptly turned into the distressed cries of soldiers caught in gunfire. Seeing this, Choi Tae-woo quickly switched off the recorder. He knew it was strange as well, but as the team leader he had to keep everyone calm. Later the cook and the young soldier took up guard duty outside. Soon after they noticed a figure walking not far from their line of sight.
정일병 아니야? 야 정일병! 정일병! 아 나 저런 탱구리 새끼가 내 말에 씹어?
Meanwhile, as Choi Tae-woo walked through the hallway, a flash of lightning suddenly lit up the sky. He saw a woman dressed in white standing on the grass below, but in the blink of an eye she had vanished without a trace. Maybe he had imagined it, so Choi Tae-woo paid it no mind. The next morning, Yeo counted the team members, only to discover that one person was missing. The missing man was Young, the private whom the cook and the young soldier had seen the night before.
昨晚的站岗顺序应该是厨师长和少年兵为第一班。
The cook and the young soldier were supposed to take the first watch. Then John was assigned to the second shift, and Young the private was scheduled for the final watch. But after John finished his shift, Young was nowhere to be seen. He assumed Young had gone to the restroom, so he never reported it. When his shift ended, he simply went back to sleep. Even by morning, Young still had not returned. After hearing John's explanation, the deputy leader was furious and kicked him in front of everyone. Feeling wrong, John stepped aside and started complaining. Then he pulled out a mirror to fix his appearance. But at that moment, a drop of blood landed on the mirror. The two of them were puzzled, so they looked up. After bringing the body down, Choi Tae-woo checked the soldier's dog tag and confirmed that it was the missing Young. But the question remained: who could have done this in such a short time? The deputy leader suspected there were Vietnamese soldiers nearby, so he led a team back to the ancient temple ruins, only to find that the incense they had seen burning yesterday was still not completely burned out, which meant someone had come back to replace it. In order to find that person, they set up landmine traps around the incense. That night, the radio operator finally reached headquarters. Choi Tae-woo reported what had happened to Young, but what their superior said next sent chills through everyone.
정일병은 그때 실종된 애들 중에 하나잖아.
예?
야 최중일, 너 미쳤어? 정일이 그놈아는 니들이 찾아야 할 놈이야.
지금 무슨 말씀하십니까?
이 새끼가... 야, 니네 지금 총원이 몇 명이야?
총원 10명 중에 죽은 정일병 빼고 현지원 9명입니다.
돌아도 단단히 돌았구만. 야, 최태인이. 니넨 여기서 9명이 출발했어. 9명이. 알았죠? 전투 상부에도 9명이 간 걸로 적혀있는데 10명이라니.
It turned out the extra person in the photo from the beginning was Young. Although this revelation filled everyone with fear, someone still had to stand guard for safety reasons. This time the camera guy and Corporal Wu were assigned to the watch. The camera guy kept eating to calm his nerves, because he had known Young personally, and they had been close friends. Later Young was assigned to the Wild Donkey Squad, for a mission at Romeo Point. With his daughter Young Seo's birthday approaching, and no time to spare, he gave the camera guy a large sum of money before departing. He wanted him to buy an expensive camera, and give it to his daughter as a birthday present on his behalf. But what he never expected was, after buying the gift the camera guy did not deliver it to Young Seo right away. He wanted to see whether Private Young would return safely from this mission. If he failed to come back then he planned to keep the camera for himself. And things turned out exactly as he had hoped. At that moment only one thought filled his mind. Private Young's spirit had come back for revenge. The scene then shifts to the deputy leader. He was hiding a secret of his own. Before this mission began, his direct superior handed him a fake dog tag, because deep down he knew this mission was likely doomed to fail, especially since the men assigned to it were considered expendable. So his superior had no faith in the operation at all. But the military had always followed one rule. If the soldier cannot be found the dog tag must be, and that fake dog tag belonged to the Wild Donkey Squad's radio operator. The deputy leader only needed to discard the fake tag, then make sure the others discovered it. That would be enough to make the mission appear completed, allowing them to leave before the full 7 days were up. Meanwhile Choi Tae-woo was standing by the window, when the sound of a bell suddenly reached his ears. Following the sound he spotted the woman in white once again, but this time she did not vanish. Instead she walked farther away, as if she were leading him somewhere. Determined to uncover the truth Choi Tae-woo followed without hesitation. Step by step he trailed her to an open field, and the woman in white began moving faster and faster, until she disappeared from sight. A flash of lightning suddenly illuminated everything around him. The place was actually a cemetery, and judging by the names on the gravestones, these were the French soldiers the Americans had mentioned. Then Choi Tae-woo noticed two familiar names. They were the same French soldiers the radio operator claimed had sent a distress signal. Next he found a damaged bell beneath one of the gravestones. It was identical to the one worn by the Vietnamese woman they met earlier. All these strange discoveries left Choi Tae-woo frozen with fear. Just as he got up to leave, the lighter in his pocket accidentally fell to the ground. The scene shifts back to the camera guy. He had just woken from his sleep, and saw Corporal Wu playing with his camera. Without saying a word he immediately grabbed it back. To his horror the person standing before him was not Corporal Wu at all. It was Private Young who had already passed away. Realizing something was terribly wrong the camera guy ran for his life. Meanwhile the real Corporal Wu was relieving himself nearby. Seeing the camera guy panic left him completely confused. The camera guy then rushed toward the temple ruins, and the sight of the burning incense made him even more terrified. A heavy rain had just fallen moments earlier, so how could the incense still be burning? Then the sound of bells echoed once more. The camera guy instinctively turned around, and there standing before him was Private Young. At the same time Choi Tae-woo returned to the outpost and ran into the deputy leader, but before either of them could speak, a sudden explosion echoed from the distance. They immediately knew someone had triggered the landmine trap, but when they rushed to the scene, they discovered it was not an enemy. It was the camera guy. He kept repeating that he never meant for any of this to happen. The radio operator tried to help him, but his condition was too severe and he soon passed away. At that moment Choi Tae-woo picked up the camera guy's helmet, and found another broken string of bells attached to it. After returning the remaining soldiers were shaken by all the strange events they had witnessed, especially Corporal Wu who was sensitive to such matters. He became convinced that Romeo Point was haunted. In truth everyone already had their suspicions, but superstition was something the military strongly discouraged. To keep morale steady, the deputy leader promised everyone that he would bring them home safely. The next morning everyone assembled early, and it was already their 4th day at Romeo Point. The two leaders planned to split the group into teams once again, because of the deputy leader's promise the night before. Everyone wanted to be assigned to his team. In the end, under his direct orders, the cook and the young soldier reluctantly joined Choi Tae-woo's group. Choi Tae-woo then led them back to the place with the stone monument carved with Chinese characters. He came here because he wanted to follow the path back into the bamboo forest. He believed all of these strange events were connected to the Vietnamese woman, so he wanted to find out whether she was truly gone or not. Yet after walking for a long time they somehow ended up back at the monument. The three of them then began searching for a way out. Instead they came across a helicopter that had crashed years ago. One look at the remains inside sent chills down their spines, because those remains belonged to the American soldiers they had encountered that night, which meant they really had encountered something supernatural. Choi Tae-woo then told the young soldier to contact the deputy leader, but But at the worst possible moment the radio stopped working. With no other choice, Choi Tae-woo led the two of them to regroup with the deputy leader. Meanwhile, the deputy leader's team arrived at the cemetery Choi Tae-woo had visited the night before. Strangely, every gravestone had completely vanished. Then the radio operator found the lighter Choi Tae-woo had dropped. Using that as an excuse, the deputy leader ordered everyone to continue searching the area, while secretly tossing the fake dog tag into the search zone himself. Once the fake dog tag was found, the deputy leader instructed the radio operator to contact Choi Tae-woo. He wanted to tell him that the dog tag had been recovered, and that headquarters could now send a team to bring them home. But to their surprise, their radio had also failed, as though something refused to let them leave. Then that mysterious viewpoint appeared again, and the deputy leader sensed something unusual in that direction, so he grabbed his weapon and moved in to investigate. After entering the bamboo forest, he caught sight of a figure slipping past. Seeing this, he immediately followed it. After a long time, the others realized he still had not returned, so they began searching for him. While passing by a pond, Corporal Wu suddenly slipped and fell, but when Wu got back to his feet, he was horrified to see countless bodies floating in the water. Everyone was shaken by the sight. They stopped worrying about everything else and just wanted to find the deputy leader and leave this cursed place as soon as possible. But the strange events were far from over. While searching, Wu kept hearing someone calling his name from behind. The first time he turned around, there was nothing there, but the second time, he saw the late cameraman standing there staring directly at him. Terrified, Wu immediately ran away and told his teammates what he had just seen. The machine gunner tried to calm him down, saying if you see anything strange again, just fire at it. Not long afterward, Private Young suddenly appeared in Wu's line of sight. Without hesitation, he raised his rifle and opened fire wildly. Then he heard Choi Tae-woo's voice from ahead. Realizing it was their own team, the others rushed forward to stop Wu, but the tragedy had already happened. The cook from Choi Tae-woo's team was fatally hit. Now everyone had regrouped, except for the deputy leader, whose whereabouts were still unknown. At that moment, he had fallen into a cave, although his head was injured in the fall. Fortunately, he was still alive. Then he heard a telegraph signal coming from deep within the cave. Listening carefully, he realized it was the same distress signal from the Wild Donkey Squad heard at the beginning. The scene shifted as Choi Tae-woo returned to the outpost with the remaining soldiers. The radio operator tried contacting headquarters but still got no response. Just then, John remembered that tomorrow would be the 5th day. The American soldiers would come to inspect the equipment, and they could ask them for help. At this point, the deputy leaders group still did not know the American soldiers were already gone. Only Choi Tae-woo and his team knew the truth. So he decided to check the room on the second floor that they had been strictly forbidden to enter. When he opened the door, he discovered it contained no batteries at all. Instead, it held a set of communication equipment covered in cobwebs. Choi Tae-woo carried the equipment downstairs, hoping to use it to contact headquarters, and asked them to send a helicopter immediately to extract the team. But because it was too dark outside, the earliest a helicopter could arrive was 5 in the morning. Choi Tae-woo was furious when he heard that. He insisted that headquarters dispatch a helicopter right away. Before he could finish speaking, the communication equipment lost signal again. That meant they would have to spend another night at Romeo Point. Then another mine explosion echoed from outside. Everyone quickly grabbed their weapons and prepared for a confrontation. But to their surprise, the person who walked in was the deputy leader. Even though he was one of their own, Choi Tae-woo remained cautious. Because of all the strange events over the past few days, he had become convinced that Romeo Point was haunted, and he had also formed a bold theory that these spirits could possess people. So Choi Tae-woo asked the deputy leader to state his name and rank, as a way to determine whether he had been possessed. Once he was satisfied that the deputy leader was himself, Choi Tae-woo lowered his guard and put down his weapon. Just then John walked up to the deputy leader and begged him to make sure he got out of there alive. But the deputy leader suddenly revealed a strange smile. Then he raised a machete and swung it toward John's neck. From this it is clear that the deputy leader was not possessed when he first entered. He was only possessed after stating his name. Now the deputy leader was gone, which meant the spirit would move on to someone else. Right after that, Corporal Wu saw the deceased camera guy and the cook he had accidentally shot, standing behind 2 different teammates. This was another ability of the spirits, creating illusions, especially for someone as emotionally fragile as Corporal Wu. He was far more susceptible to their influence. When Choi Tae-woo saw Corporal Wu aiming his rifle at a teammate, he immediately shouted at him, snapping him back to his senses. Soon another mine explosion echoed from outside. Moments later, the machine gunner's eyes became unfocused, clearly showing signs of possession. Fortunately, Choi Tae-woo noticed it in time.
이상병, 관등성명. 안 들려? 관등성명!
상병 이재필 83들 760들.
Seeing how effective this method was, Choi Tae-woo ordered everyone to take turns stating their names and ranks, so they could stay mentally alert, avoid possession, and resist the influence. In other words, for a spirit to possess someone, that person first had to lose focus and let their guard down, which meant the earlier explosions were deliberate distractions created by the spirits to create an opening for possession. After the young soldier finished stating his name and rank, the dark blue viewpoint drifted away from him. This proved one thing: as long as someone remained conscious and alert, the spirits could not possess them. The scene then shifted to the room on the second floor, where the communication equipment left behind appeared to ooze a strange red liquid, and voices of French soldiers could even be heard. Even the equipment they had moved downstairs began producing similar sounds. The signal operator recognized that voice immediately.
소대장님, 그들이 오고 있어요.
마지막이다. 쏘기 전에 관등 성명 대라.
As for why the signal operator became possessed, it was because he realized that the French soldiers who had sent him distress signals were all spirits. At that moment his fear was amplified, and his mental defenses completely collapsed, giving the spirits an opportunity to take over. Although the young soldier had thrown the grenade outside, the instant it detonated, flying debris struck his eyes, leaving him completely blind. Choi Tae-woo quickly found a piece of cloth and bandaged him. At the same time he reminded the other two to stay alert. Everything seemed normal at first, but before long Corporal Wu suddenly walked over to the machine gunner.
병훈아.
The 9-man squad was now down to only 2 survivors, and the young soldier completely broke down after losing his sight, constantly calling out Choi Tae-woo's name, begging him to take him home. All Choi Tae-woo could do was keep reassuring him and helping him stay calm. If they could just make it through the night they could leave tomorrow. At that moment Choi Tae-woo noticed a photograph in his pocket. It was the same photo they had found when they first entered the building. Besides a group of French soldiers there was also a woman dressed in white in the picture. It was the very same woman Choi Tae-woo had seen before. Suddenly the sound of bells rang out behind him. A bell then appeared on the ground. Choi Tae-woo stepped forward and picked it up as a flash of lightning lit the sky. He instinctively glanced toward the doorway. A dark figure was clearly standing there. Seeing this Choi Tae-woo quickly grabbed the machete on the floor and prepared himself. But to his surprise the woman in white appeared right behind him. Choi Tae-woo tried to raise his blade in defense, but it felt as though an invisible force had restrained him. No matter what he did he could not move. Faced with this situation Choi Tae-woo knew he could not fight the woman in white. But if he became possessed, the young soldier would not survive either. So he chose to sacrifice himself. As a bright white light filled the screen, the story moved to the next day. The 5th day at Romeo Point. In the empty hall all of the fallen teammates had mysteriously vanished. Only the surviving young soldier remained talking to himself. After he was finally taken away, the communication equipment suddenly broadcast a distress call from the Field Mouse Squad, which was Choi Tae-woo's team. And that is where the movie ends. I am Matt. See you in the next episode.